Okay, so this whole Mark Zuckerberg thing has been kind of bugging me, you know?
Uh,
Like,
well,
he went from the king of the gray t-shirt to, like,
yeah,
whatever this is now.
right.
We've got this article about it, like streetwear gold chains, even a learning through suffering t-shirt.
Yeah, no,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
it's quite a shift, and you're right to be intrigued
Right.
because it's more than a midlife crisis or a sudden thing for Amiri,
Right.
which is a brand he seems to be favoring these days.
Yeah, it's like he woke up one morning and decided to ditch the whole tech uniform thing
Yeah.
and went straight out of a hypebeast lookbook.
Yeah.
But why, though?
Mhm.
Is it really just about the clothes?
Not even remotely.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it for a second. We're hardwired to judge based on appearance, right?
Okay.
Clothing is a powerful tool,
Yeah.
especially for someone in Zuck's position.
Okay, so image management, but like on a deeper level.
Exactly.
Hmm.
To really understand why this is so deliberate, we need to look at the bigger picture
Okay.
of like Silicon Valley fashion and how public perception of these tech leaders has really changed.
Okay, so walk me through this whole Silicon Valley fashion evolution then.
Okay?
Was Zuck's whole minimalist phase, was that just him following a trend?
In a way, yes. Remember Steve Jobs and that black turtleneck?
Oh, yeah.
It created this image of this like tech genius who was above fashion.
It's like they were too busy, like, changing the world to
Exactly.
care about clothes.
Too busy changing the world to care about their clothes.
So-
And it worked for a while.
It totally did. It became, like, synonymous with success.
Precisely.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Times have changed.
Okay.
The public is far more aware now
Yeah,
of the downsides of big tech.
that's true.
Data privacy issues, misinformation, the wealth gap. It's created a trust deficit.
Totally. And suddenly that billionaire tech bro look isn't so cool anymore.
Exactly. And this is where the psychology of image rehabilitation gets really interesting.
Okay.
This is Zuck trying to influence our perceptions.
So you're saying it's strategic? There's no way he just, like, woke up and, like, streetwear now?
Well, I mean, personal preference might be in there somewhere,
Okay.
but it's hard to ignore the timing.
Yeah.
Public sentiment towards Facebook and really all tech giants
Right.
took a nosedive after Cambridge Analytica.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that?
How could I forget? It felt like a watershed moment.
It really was.
Suddenly everyone was questioning how much power these companies really had.
And how much of our data they were using.
Exactly.
So when we see Zuck in streetwear, which is associated with authenticity and even rebellion,
Okay.
it's hard not to see it as the deliberate attempt to appeal to a younger, more skeptical generation.
So he's trying to shed that image of the out-of-touch tech CEO
Exactly.
and seem more relatable. But does that really work?
How?
Can just changing your clothes erase years of scandals and mistrust?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah. And one we'll unpack further when we continue our deep dive into Mark Zuckerberg's makeover right after this. Don't go anywhere. So we were just talking about how Mark Zuckerberg's whole style evolution might be a way to, like, combat the negative public perception of Facebook.
Right.
But is it really that simple, though?
Yeah.
Can you just throw on a hoodie and suddenly people forget about data privacy and all that?
It's not quite that simple, but our brains are wired to look for patterns, right?
Okay.
For consistency. So when we see someone like Zuckerberg repeatedly, like in these settings that clash with like our existing perceptions of them,
Yeah.
it creates this thing called cognitive dissonance.
Cognitive dissonance. That sounds kind of intense for talking about Zuck in streetwear.
It's a powerful psychological phenomenon, though.
Okay.
Essentially, it's that like mental discomfort that we feel when we hold two conflicting beliefs.
Okay.
So in this case, it's the dissonance between our image of Zuck as like the hoodie-wearing tech CEO who exploited our data versus this new image of him as like the streetwear dad who enjoys surfing and Taylor Swift concerts.
So our brains are basically trying to reconcile those two images.
Exactly. And that's where the potential for manipulation comes in.
Okay.
Because our brains often choose the path of least resistance.
So basically just accepting this new image, even if it's not really based in reality.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
We resolve the dissonance by accepting the new, more palatable image.
See, that's kind of scary when you think about it.
Yeah, it highlights the power of image management in the age of social media.
Yeah.
And Zuckerberg isn't even the only tech CEO who understands this.
That's true.
Like, remember Travis Kalanick, the former Uber CEO?
Oh, yeah.
When he did his whole image makeover?
Yeah. What was that all about?
He traded in his brash, aggressive persona for a more like subdued philanthropic one after all those scandals.
Right. He wanted to be seen as more than like the bad boy of tech.
Exactly. It's about adapting to the zeitgeist, right?
Okay.
To the prevailing cultural mood.
So what you're saying is authenticity and relatability are super important right now.
Yeah, especially for younger generations.
Well, okay.
Which brings us back to Zuck and his learning through suffering t-shirt.
Oh, yeah. I wanted to ask you about that.
It's a choice, for sure.
It feels ironic considering all the suffering that Facebook has caused.
Right, and it speaks to that whole element of contradiction that we were talking about earlier.
Okay.
Like he's trying to project this image of being relatable, but there's still that edge there.
Right.
That reminder of the ambition that built his empire.
It makes you wonder if he's trying to have it both ways, you know?
Yeah.
Like, look, I'm a regular guy who makes mistakes and learns from them, but, like, I also built this multi-billion-dollar company, so don't underestimate me.
Exactly. And I think that complexity makes this whole thing really fascinating.
It really does.
Because it's not just about the clothes, it's about the message that it sends, right? It's like this carefully crafted persona.
It's like he's created this algorithm, but this time it's for manipulating our perception of him.
It really makes you wonder, is any of it actually genuine?
Right, or is it all just PR?
Could this just be someone who has grown and evolved?
Yeah.
And their style is just reflecting that?
Or is it a carefully orchestrated PR campaign?
Right.
Designed to rehabilitate his image and really his company's image too?
It's a good question.
Yeah.
And it's something that we'll explore further when we come back for the final part of our deep dive into Mark Zuckerberg's strategic style shift.
So we spent all this time talking about Mark Zuckerberg's transformation, and it seems pretty clear that it's a calculated move, you know,
right,
to kind of reshape his public image.
Yeah.
But does it really work?
That's the big question, isn't it? I mean, there's no easy answer.
Right.
On the one hand, people are pretty savvy these days.
Yeah.
You can spot a PR stunt coming from a mile away.
Especially when it's a learning through suffering t-shirt from a guy who's worth billions of dollars.
Exactly. There's a certain level of cynicism that's hard to get past.
Right, but what about the people who want to believe it?
That's the other hand, right? We're also susceptible to something called confirmation bias.
Confirmation bias. Okay, now you're just using big words to sound smart.
No, it's actually a real thing.
Okay.
It's our tendency to look for information that confirms what we already think.
Oh, so if you already like Zuckerberg, you're going to be more willing to accept whatever new version of himself he's putting out there.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to focus on the positive stories, the donations he makes, all that, and ignore the more critical stuff.
So it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy then. The more he tries to seem relatable, the more people will actually think he is.
Kind of, and that's where the lines get really blurry. You know,
between what?
Between genuine growth and just strategic image management.
So maybe he starts wearing these clothes to appeal to younger people, but then he starts to actually believe in those things.
Exactly. Authenticity, rebellion, that kind of thing.
It's a weird feedback loop. It's does it even matter if the end result is that we like him more?
Right? Is that really the point?
Does a new wardrobe actually change how we feel about everything Facebook has done?
It's tough to say.
Can a photo op erase years of scandals and mistrust?
I think only time will really tell on that one.
Okay.
But we are all part of this crazy experiment, right?
What do you mean?
This whole image and perception thing in the digital age.
Yeah.
It's all connected.
It's a lot to think about.
It really is.
It's the next time I see Mark Zuckerberg wearing something new, I can't just assume those are his real clothes.
Right.
There's probably a whole team of people whose job it is to pick out what he wears every day.
It makes you wonder.
Yeah, it really does. Well, this has been a fascinating deep dive into Mark Zuckerberg and really, I think, just how we see the world these days.
It's all connected.
It really is. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time for another deep dive.